For viewers who had been patiently waiting for Sheldon's return, this episode serves as a quiet but definitive answer. If he did not come home for the holidays, the likelihood of him appearing at some other, less emotionally significant point in the season drops dramatically. The episode does not just delay his return, it strongly implies that it is not a priority for the series at all. This is further reinforced by how rarely Sheldon is even mentioned throughout Georgie and Mandy's first marriage. While Mary and Missy frequently interact with Georgie and Mandy, and while Mima's influence remains felt even in her absence, Sheldon's name rarely comes up in conversation. When it does, it is usually brief and functional, not emotional or reflective. The series seems intentionally reluctant to dwell on him. From a creative standpoint, this decision is understandable. Georgie and Mandy's first marriage was never meant to be Young Sheldon's Season 8. It is a distinct show with its own tone, themes, and narrative priorities. In order to fully establish itself, it had to step out from under the long shadow cast by its predecessor. Continuing to center Sheldon, even peripherally, might have undermined that effort. Georgie's story, after all, has always existed in contrast to his younger brothers. Where Sheldon is academically gifted but socially challenged, Georgie is emotionally intuitive but struggled academically. Where Sheldon escaped Texas to pursue intellectual fulfillment, Georgie stayed behind, taking on adult responsibilities earlier than most. This spin-off is about giving Georgie the spotlight he never fully had before. However, there is a cost to this creative independence. By excluding Sheldon from the narrative, the series sacrifices an opportunity to explore one of the most emotionally complex relationships in the Cooper family, the bond and eventual rift between Georgie and Sheldon. When young Sheldon ended, the relationship between the brothers was, surprisingly, in a relatively healthy place. Their final interactions suggested mutual respect, if not warmth. They were not especially close, but they were not estranged either. Their conversations were curt in the way that is typical for both characters, but there was no open hostility. This depiction stands in stark contrast to what The Big Bang Theory later established. In that series, Georgie and Sheldon's relationship is defined by years of resentment and silence. The brothers went long stretches without speaking at all, and when they did finally confront their issues in Season 11, Episode 23, The Sibling Realignment, it was clear that their animosity had been building for a very long time. That episode made it abundantly clear that their feud was not the result of a single argument or misunderstanding. Instead, it was the product of years of missed connections, unspoken grievances, and mutual disappointment. Sheldon harbored resentment toward Georgie for his past behavior, while Georgie felt overshadowed, dismissed, and emotionally abandoned by his younger brother. The challenge for Georgie and Mandy's first marriage is that, without Sheldon appearing on screen, it cannot directly depict the gradual breakdown of their relationship. The show cannot show arguments, confrontations, or moments of emotional distance forming in real time. As a result, the deterioration of their bond must happen largely off-screen. Yet, as Miami Beach and A Magical Family Christmas subtly demonstrates, the series is still laying the groundwork for that eventual fallout, just in a quieter, more indirect way. Mary's solo visit to Sheldon during the holidays is particularly telling. As the only family member who makes the trip to California, Mary becomes Sheldon's primary, and perhaps only, emotional connection to his life back in Texas. She is the one who updates him on family news, who maintains that thread of continuity. Over time, this dynamic naturally reinforces Sheldon's closeness to his mother while allowing his relationships with his siblings to weaken. Georgie, meanwhile, is no longer in a position to drop everything and travel across the country. He has a wife, a child, and financial responsibilities that make spontaneous trips unrealistic. From his perspective, Sheldon's failure to visit Texas likely feels like a personal slight, even if it is unintentional. Georgie sacrifices constantly for his family, while Sheldon seems free to prioritize his career without considering the emotional consequences. This imbalance is fertile ground for resentment. Georgie may feel that Sheldon has abandoned him, choosing ambition over family. Sheldon, in turn, may view Georgie's life choices as evidence that they no longer have much in common. Neither brother is entirely wrong, but neither is able to fully articulate their feelings to the other. Missy occupies a unique position in this dynamic. As she grows older, she is more likely to find reasons to travel: college visits, spring break trips, social adventures that take her beyond Texas. Sheldon's presence at Caltech may even become an advantage, providing her with a place to stay or an excuse to explore new experiences. While Missy and Sheldon are vastly different people, their circumstances give them more opportunities to maintain contact. Georgie, by contrast, becomes increasingly anchored to home. The older his daughter CC gets, the harder it becomes for him to leave. What begins as logistical difficulty slowly transforms into emotional distance. Each missed visit becomes another unspoken grievance, another brick in the wall separating the brothers. Over time, these small slights accumulate. Both men begin to blame each other for their lack of communication. What starts as disappointment hardens into bitterness, and bitterness eventually calcifies into the deep-seated feud referenced in the Big Bang Theory. By the time they finally confront each other years later, the damage is already done. In this sense, Georgie and Mandy's first marriage does succeed in setting up the eventual rift between Georgie and Sheldon, even without showing Sheldon on screen. The absence itself becomes part of the story. Sheldon's physical distance mirrors the emotional gap growing between the brothers, making his non-appearance not just a production choice, but a thematic one. While this approach may frustrate fans who want to see Sheldon again, it aligns with the series' broader goal, to tell Georgie's story on its own terms. Sheldon's absence is a reminder that life moves on, relationships change, and not every emotional turning point happens in front of an audience. In the end, Miami Beach and A Magical Family Christmas may not have delivered the long-awaited Sheldon cameo, but it did something arguably more important. It clarified the show's priorities and confirmed that Georgie and Mandy's first marriage is committed to forging its own path, even if that means leaving one of television's most iconic characters just out of frame.